All right, let's get right into it. Today we're tackling one of the biggest mysteries in the business world. How on earth did Apple manage to do what it did? This is a company that, by all rights, shouldn't even be here. According to the theories, it should have failed ages ago. Instead, it reinvented itself and entire industries over and over again. So let's crack open their playbook. You know, there's this cold, hard truth about business. If you look at the data for thousands of companies over decades, you see the same pattern again and again. They rise, they peak, and then they fade away. It's almost like a law of nature for businesses, a kind of corporate gravity. So what's going on here? It's a real head-scratcher, isn't it? We're not talking about poorly run companies. These are the giants, the ones that are supposedly doing everything right, listening to their customers, chasing profits, and yet they get completely blindsided. Well, it turns out there's a powerful theory that explains this exact paradox. Okay, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at why great companies fail. Then we'll get into the theory of disruption itself. After that, we'll see how Apple became the ultimate rule breaker, peek inside its unique DNA, check out the incredible moats it built, and finally wrap up with the big lesson. So first things first, let's dive into this core paradox. The idea that the very things that make you a winner can end up being the very reason you lose. And this is the classic trap, the heart of the whole dilemma. Big, established companies get really good at making their best customers happy. They keep improving their products, charging a bit more, and raking in the profits. But because they're so focused on that high-end market, they have this massive blind spot. They don't see the scrappy little upstart in the corner with a cheap, kind of clunky product that's about to change the whole game. Okay, so that's the problem. Now let's talk about the theory behind it. This idea is called disruptive innovation, and it comes from the brilliant Harvard professor Clayton Christensen. Now, the key thing to get here is that this is not about building a better product. Disruptors almost never win by being better at the start. Instead, they win by being simpler, cheaper, and way more convenient. They go after customers the big guys are ignoring. Or even better, they create customers out of people who weren't buying anything at all. Okay, check this out, because this chart lays it all out perfectly. You see that top line? That's the big, established company. They're on a steady path, making things better and better for their most demanding customers. Think of it like a fancy airline adding lie-flat seats. But look down below. The disruptor isn't even playing that game. They're coming in from the bottom with something cheap and good enough, like a no-frills budget airline, or creating a whole new market for people who never flew before. So you've basically got two different wars being fought here. In the sustaining war, making faster chips, bigger screens, the big guys with all the resources almost always win. But in the disruptive war, the little guy almost always wins. Why? Because the big company's greatest strengths, their processes, their profit models, suddenly become crippling weaknesses. Which, of course, brings us to the one company that seems to break all the rules, the great exception to the theory, Apple. A company that, by all logic, should have been disrupted into oblivion, probably more than once. I mean, get this. Even the guy who wrote the book on disruption theory was skeptical of Apple. He looked at their closed system, where they controlled the hardware and the software, and basically said, this isn't gonna last. Theory predicted that a more open mix-and-match approach, like Google and Microsoft had, would eventually win. And man, this quote from Steve Ballmer is just perfect. It's the incumbent blind spot in action. He's laughing at a $500 phone because it doesn't have a keyboard and it's too expensive for business users. He saw a phone. He completely missed the fact that Apple was launching a powerful computer that fit in your pocket. And that's textbook disruption right there. The big dogs just couldn't see it. It didn't fit their spreadsheets, it didn't serve their existing customers. But Apple wasn't trying to steal customers from BlackBerry. They were creating a whole new type of customer, people who didn't even know they needed a powerful internet device with them at all times. So the big question is, how? How did they keep dodging this bullet again and again? To get that, we've got to look under the hood at the company's unique DNA. Steve Jobs was absolutely obsessed with this idea. He was terrified of the suits taking over from the creatives. He believed companies die when the people who care about spreadsheets and marketing PowerPoints take over from the people who live and breathe the product. For him, the moment you only care about the quarterly report, you're already dead. So to fight that decay, Apple's whole internal system is, well, it's just different. It starts with one clear vision: simplify everything for the user. Then, they are absolutely ruthless about only working on a handful of things at a time. They hire experts, not managers. But this last one, this is the real killer app of their culture. The DRI, the directly responsible individual. There's no hiding in a committee. For every single task, one person's name is on it. The buck stops with them, period. Okay, so you've got this amazing innovation engine inside the company, but how do you protect what you create? Well, this is where Apple built a modern-day fortress. See, Apple didn't just build one moat around its castle. It built 5, and they all reinforce each other. You start with the iconic brand and the control they have through their own retail stores. Then you add their insane mastery of the global supply chain, which lets them scale. Then there's the software that locks you into their ecosystem. And the final knockout punch, the App Store, a massive network effect that just gets stronger with every new user and every new developer. And if you want to see what that strategy looks like in practice, just look at these numbers. It is absolutely staggering. In 2007, when the iPhone was born, Apple had a tiny sliver of the phone industry's profits. Just 4 years later, they were taking home almost 60%. Everyone else was fighting over scraps, and Apple was just cashing all the checks. And here's another brilliant move that shows their genius. They knew that if they only sold a super expensive iPod, someone else would come along and sell a cheap one, right? That's called a price umbrella. So what did? They disrupted themselves. Before anyone else could attack from below, they launched the iPod mini and then the iPod Shuffle, slamming the door shut on any low-end competition. All right, so let's bring this all home. After all this, what's the ultimate lesson we can take away from Apple's incredible journey? Basically, Apple proved that while the theory of disruption is usually right, there is a loophole. They showed that by tightly controlling every single piece of the puzzle, the hardware, the software, the services, the whole shebang, you can create an experience that the mix-and-match competitors just can't touch. It just works. And this quote right here from the legendary computer scientist Alan Kay, it just nails it. This is the whole philosophy in one sentence. It's the core belief that allowed Apple to always be in the driver's seat of innovation, not just a passenger along for the ride. Which leaves us with the big, lingering, multi-trillion-dollar question. Is the Apple way a formula that any company can follow? Or was it all just the unique, unrepeatable magic of Steve Jobs? That's a debate that the entire tech world is still trying to figure out.